Good afternoon, good morning, or good evening, depending on when you're watching this or where in the world you are. I am Shante Javon Taylor, neuroscientist and success strategist, the founder of the OptiMind Institute. We have another wonderful OptiMind highlight with the student, Farrah Harris, who is a psychotherapist and a workplace wellness champion and an emotional intelligence expert. And she just has this story to tell. She's showing up in the world powerfully and really using neuroscience to change the world in her particular way, in her particular gifts and genius zone. So I just really like to highlight our students' work out in the world. So welcome, Farrah.
Thank you so much, Shante, for having me. I'm so excited. You just don't know how much I love you.
Likewise. Well, you keep showing up on my radar. I know you joined the OptiMind Neuro Coach and Neuro Certification Program a few years ago, maybe 2 or 3 years ago. And ever since 2017. So you are just in it. You've been practicing this knowledge and incorporating it into your work, into your world. Can you share with us, Farrah, where are you in time and space right now?
Ooh, where are we all right now?
That's a deep question.
Yeah. I mean, honestly, like right now, my main focus, I would say throughout this whole year, is just maintaining the well-being of myself and my family because of all of the craziness that's been happening. But I am in a very good place right now because of, I mean, it's crazy because the world is upside down. The need for therapists is definitely, out there, but then also people to speak directly to racism and well-being in the midst of us dealing with, in a way, dual pandemics has allowed me to really show up in a way that I did not expect. And so I actually had to close my practice, not as a bad thing, so you guys don't have to worry, like this is not sad, but it's closing definitely because I really wanted to make sure I was home and present with my kids. I have 3 and 2 of them are school agers, so they're doing remote learning. And I'm big on work-life alignment. And so I'm like, what needs to be reprioritized in terms of time and energy? And so I'm able to be more present with my kids, allow them to have access to me throughout the day while they're doing school because I'm not seeing clients. But I've also been able to have more room and space to grow my Working Well Daily business, which allows me to do more speaking, consulting, and I'm just really trying to figure out, just like the name of my company, how to work well.
Absolutely. So what have been the challenges and how did understanding the brain and mind allow you to navigate those challenges during this particular moment in our modern history?
Well, what's interesting is that when I first met you, when I first laid eyes on Miss Shante, it was fall 2017. I will always remember this because that was a shift in my life where I had made the decision to really bet on myself. And so though I was seeing clients privately, I hadn't really announced that I was going to be working for myself and that I was going to do private practice. And just being able to hear the few interviews that you did, I was like, this woman is aligned with like what I believe and what I know of the mind. And so just even the conversations I saw you in, those interviews, has in a way carried me throughout this year. And going back to, so I'm gonna be completely honest. Though I started the program back in 2017, I was not completing the program because life happened. So I'm completing the program now, but I can honestly say just module 1 changed my life. Just being able to understand all the different parts of the brain. Yes, really understanding the emotional brain. Obviously, as a therapist, I'm helping clients understand their emotions and their thought process. But when I can slip into a part of that neuro coaching aspect and let it integrate with the work that I do with emotional intelligence and narrative therapy, all that stuff. I have to do that with myself. So with this year, it's been checking on, practicing that self-awareness. Okay, what is happening in my mind right now? What am I feeling right now? What is it that I have to do? At the Neuroscience conference, which was what? I want to say April 2018 that, I attended.
Mm-hmm.
You talked about sleep and the importance of sleep. And I don't know if that should be one of like your main banners, to spread around the world, because I just don't think, especially in this society, we understand rest. And so to have COVID come and everybody be, turned upside down, not knowing how to be still, but COVID making us, forcing us in a way to be still and not resting. Our trauma response often causes us to feel lethargic or not have restful sleep. And so being intentional on caring about rest was big for me. So to the point where my kids are like, Mom, you didn't take your nap yet today. Yeah, you right. Let me go take a quick little 20-minute nap. Yeah. But I am learning through this program just how important it is to rest, how important it is so that my mind is allowed to reboot and reset, really being able to understand, I love how you call it OptiMind. How do you optimally use my brain? If I am too tired, why am I pushing? Why am I trying to get this executed? Like, just stop and take a break. So literally it has been through listening to you in those first initial interviews back in 2017, getting back into the program, trying to stay up to date with, the stuff that you put in the groups, just so that I can remember how to, I'm big on integrity and not being a hypocrite. So if I'm going to teach you neuroscience and how the brain works, I need to implement it myself in my day-to-day life. So I just thank you so much for the information and the curriculum and the platform to really elevate, our minds and show us how much power and control we have. I think a lot of us just kind of think like, we're just living just kind of willy-nilly. And it's like, no, we can really be intentional if we take it, that moment to recognize this muscle that is in our head actually can be this computer that our mind can, direct and allow us to, live a life that's more aligned and that we're more satisfied in different areas of our lives, because we're able to know how we're feeling, how we're thinking in real time.
Absolutely. Well put. Well put. I truly believe that the brain is the control center of everything we do and everything we don't do, everything we try to do, everything we succeed at. And we can be more successful in every area of our lives if we just use this more intentionally. But in order to do that, we have to learn about it intentionally and systematically. And that's what the OptiMind program seeks to do. So I was also trained in clinical neuropsychology. So I had the benefit of learning about the brain, of course, in a psychological context, right? But you're a psychotherapist, and I just assumed they taught about the brain and, psycho.
It depends on what program. So I was really sad that by the time I was leaving my program in grad school, they were adding neuropsychology as an elective. It wasn't even a course that's our main courses of study. It was a bonus, if you will. And so if you didn't have time or the money, you missed out on having a great opportunity to learn this thing that actually controls our thoughts and our feelings. Like, all we do is understanding human behavior, and human behavior comes from up here. So it is really interesting that that's not already something embedded in our curriculum.
Baked in, right? Because psychology dances around the brain, right? It gives the concepts and the principles, and then you have your ways to guide the patient through their thoughts and thinking.
Yeah.
But it's the mechanics behind the thoughts and the thinking that also needs to be addressed.
Yeah.
And when you are sharing neuroscience with your clients, with people in organizations, which I want you to talk about shortly, you're empowering them with the knowledge of their own brain, so that when they're away from the interview or the trainings that you give or the session that you have, they can think consciously about their brain while they're in the moment of the challenge. It's like, okay, I'm feeling a certain way. Let me be aware of, what the environment is, what part of my brain could be affected, and what were those strategies Farrah was telling me so I can calm down my limbic brain, my emotional brain, my amygdala, right? I'm feeling kind of unfocused right now. I know there's something going on with my prefrontal cortex. What can I do to power it up? So we could be conscious superheroes by powering up this dynamic piece of neurotechnology, okay? Because that's what it is. It's a living, organic computer system, which I call a neurotechnology that will keep growing and powering up and taking us as far as we can imagine ourselves. But we're going to stay baseline if everybody doesn't learn how to use it on a more intentional, powerful level.
Yeah.
I just appreciate what you do going up. I know you've done interviews and you have articles. Why don't you share with us what have been your opportunities as a result of infusing neuroscience in a more powerful way into your profession and work?
I don't even want to say it on a micro level, because I think it's huge if you just impact one person, right? So in my private practice, it's always exciting when after I'll have a session where I'm infusing, that neuro technology and neural knowledge. Then the next session where my client was like, that was like my breakthrough session, or that was my aha, session. That is always exciting to me. And then it has allowed me to get into certain spaces where in these corporate relationships, being able to go, hey, we're going to do this session on emotional intelligence, which again, most companies are aware, like this is a great skill set to have. And it's like, but I can't teach you emotional intelligence if I don't break down just even some simple neuroscience 101 on you, just so that you can understand what's going on with, the CEO, the prefrontal cortex, what's going on in your amygdala. And when I do that, and I kind of make it a fun thing, like, here's how you could be like the cool nerd, at your next dinner party, so I make you make a fist and be like, this is your brain. Like, you can literally teach this. And you may not have it perfect, obviously, but it's like, it's always great to have my corporate clients walk away and go like, wow, just the way you broke that down was so easy for me to use. And I never wanted to just be something where when I'm speaking to an organization that I'm providing tools just for work, because we live outside of work too. And so I'm always excited that whether it's the neural science that I impart, or if it's just some basic wellness tips, that it's always the feedback of like, oh, I can see how I can use this in my day-to-day life, in my relationship with my partner. I think it helps me to be a better parent, honestly, and I can teach my kids, because we want our children to be able to understand how their minds work so that they can grow up to be adults that are just well acclimated, and they're just, more astute of being students of themselves, that they can be able to know who they are, how they work, how their mind works. And so, I've been able to have interviews with Forbes and work with large companies like, Live Nation, and here in Chicago, there's a large bank, CIBC US, which is national, international, actually. And so these opportunities are so great, but I love that it's kind of just very subtle, that I can kind of like sprinkle a little, neuroscience in, and people kind of can get such a big impact just by knowing something as basic as, hey, do you know the different parts of the main parts of the brain? The part that is thinking and rational and allows you to make good decisions, and the part that's overly emotional, and the part that helps you to survive, the fight, flight, and freeze, with the brain stuff. Like, that just opens up a whole conversation that, gives people more of an interest to understand themselves more. And that's what we really want is a world where people are just self-aware and what can I say, that not only are you self-aware, because you can be self-aware and still be a jerk.
They're aware they're a jerk.
Yeah, but to be self-aware to the point of wanting to be your optimal self and your healthier self to create a healthier world, so that it could be the superpower for good and not necessarily for evil.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Just living at the highest version of ourselves, the highest level of our brain potential. Okay.
Yeah.
So when you are using this knowledge and you're speaking about it, and corporations and executives, they come across your interview or your article, you are really satisfying their left brain, right? Because it's emotional intelligence. That's kind of like a soft skill, right?
No, it's not.
I know it's not.
Yeah, but that's what people think, and that's what they say.
Right, like compassion and empathy, soft skills. But when you bring this neuroscience, it makes it a necessary skill.
Yeah,
it makes it a powerful skill.
Yep.
Like if you don't train your leaders, your executives, and your workforce on the power of empathy and emotional intelligence, we're affecting each other's brains if we don't show up like that.
Yes.
We affect each other's productivity, self-esteem, morale. If we don't train our workforce, our leaders, to show up in that powerful way, and there's neuroscience behind it, and that's what powers up those type of trainings that for decades we've had, diversity and inclusion trainings and emotional, and we've had that for decades, but there's a missing piece.
Yeah,
because people are not implementing them consistently. There's still the unconscious biases, right? There's still people being overlooked and disregarded, right?
Yeah.
And affecting their brains. But when we have the neuroscience behind it, that's when we can literally change brains.
Yes.
Do you find that once you give your trainings that people come back to you and say, hey, I'm still implementing, or I still remember, because you talk to them about their brain?
Yes, and I there's rarely a presentation that I do that I don't have that, what I call is like, my Neuroscience 101. Like there's almost every single presentation that I do that I have that slide with the picture of the brain, and we walk through it if I have the time. It is very true to your point that there's been a lot of conversations, there's been a lot of trainings, and I'm always being talked back to by executives and go like, but there's this gap. Like we don't understand. We've done a lot of these trainings, especially this year, in the DEI space. There's this gap. We've been doing implicit bias training, which I don't do. That's not my wheelhouse. But I understand that there has to be an emotional connection between what you're learning. But for you to have an emotional connection, you need to understand what's going on while you're hearing the information. You're being challenged as to, do you even know what's going on in your brain while you are, gathering information? Are you choosing to not pay attention? And why is that? So what's diverting? What's the story behind how you're thinking and feeling, what makes you react a certain way, but then getting it back to just the basics of, this is how your brain works. Your brain doesn't want to learn something new, but it desires to learn something new. Like that's the crazy thing. It's like we like that routine because it's less energy, right, that our brain is using. But at the same time, we love novelty, and that does something for us, and it releases these hormones. So being aware of those things, and when you tell somebody and the listener is like, okay, is this why I'm resisting? It's like, okay, my brain just doesn't want to, it doesn't want to unlearn. All right, so now that I know that, I have to be very intentional with talking to myself. Just yesterday, I was telling my client, going back to rest, she was saying, it's just been a hard year. It's just been exhausting. It's been exhausting. And I've been trying to work on your homework, Farrah, and I have this list. And she just kept on talking about how exhausting she is. And she was like, if I could just sleep all day, but then, and she went back to the list, and I was like, but why aren't you just sleeping? And she's like, well, I mean, I don't know. And I said, but do you understand what your brain needs when you just rest? You've been saying how exhausting and how tired you are mentally, emotionally, physically. If you just rest, this is what's going to happen to your brain. So I break it all down, and she's like, okay, but my brain is busy. Even if I rest, I said, yes, because you need to tell it that we need to wind down. Like sometimes you have to hear yourself, tell yourself what to do, because your brain listens to you, and it doesn't know the difference. I think I blew her mind with that. The brain doesn't know the difference between real and imagined. And so, did the whole, can you smell popcorn? Can you, and she's like, oh my gosh, yes. I said, you know why? And so she's like, this is kind of freaky. Because when you tell your brain, smell coffee, it then lights up the part of your brain that has the sensory, so, oh, the smell of coffee smells like this. And therefore I can now remember it. And I can literally smell it, even though it does not exist in real life. And this is the same thing in every aspect of our lives. So you can tell your brain, you don't want to rest because whatever the reason is, but I'm telling you, we need to rest because this is what's good for us. And then your brain will listen. And
that's your CEO taking over.
Yes.
The prefrontal cortex. I love that, because it's like you have to override
right?
and override the system with your CEO, not with your emotional brain, not with your brain stem, your instinctive brain. No, let's use this more intentionally to override the system so that we can live a more powerful life, a more intentional life, and do the things that will, allow us to thrive in our everyday lives. So yes, thank you for sharing that. And I love how you keep going back to sleep, because we know inherently what we need to do as humans for the most part. We know we need to exercise. We know we need to eat right. We know we need to sleep. We know we need to not yell at the kids or be passive aggressive, but we don't do it intentionally. And it's because this is missing the context around, why is sleep so important? Sleep is a force multiplier. It does 1,000 different things to help you thrive. Having the right foods to nourish your 100 billion brain cells is a force multiplier. Exercise, same thing. So what we need to do as humans is get back to the basics, understand the basics of your brain, and understand how your brain changes with everyday human behaviors. So you find that inner motivation, that inner inspiration, and that respect for these human processes again. And when you understand the deeper why, how your brain thrives and changes and will take you to the next level, if you do these basic things, people will implement them consistently. And they won't necessarily have to use their prefrontal cortex to keep overriding the system anymore, because now it becomes a part of them. They appreciate these human activities. But then, as you know, in the OptiMind Institute, Farrah, we then can go to the next level. We can go beyond normal human behaviors. And, that's what we train in the OptiMind Institute. It's like, meet your clients where they are, meet the workforce where they are, teach them about their brain and normal everyday activities and how it affects the brain. But then you can take them to another level with the new neuroscience research and new behaviors that if we implement, we can go to the next level of this human potential. So
we're still unlocking, and that's the exciting thing. And it was interesting because the whole neuroplasticity, the fact that the brain constantly changes, it was something I always thought was true, even though, the cool thing about science is that, is right until it's wrong. And so, they was like, no, the brain, it is what it is. And it's like, that just doesn't seem right. Just because we've seen how external things can change the brain, whether it's an accident or, an injury or whatever. So even without that, can it be done, just by changing habits, et cetera. So I was so excited with your program because you highlight that. And what's so great too, I guess shamelessly plugging, the work with Shantae, even though I signed up back in 2017, I am so excited because you continually add value. That, even though, yes, the courses are, kind of consistent to where they were, but you just kind of, maybe you emphasize one part a little bit more. If there's new information, new science that comes out, you share that, whether it's the articles or it's the interviews. And so that's what I love about this program, is that you can constantly go back to one thing thinking, like, oh yeah, let's go back to the 102, and then like, oh wow, she's put some more some more stuff here, and it just it just strengthens those neurotransmitters, right? You just get more. I tell the kids, I do tell my kids, but I tell my clients too, like, you just want to get more branches. You want the tree to be full and lush. And so the more you go back to something, the more you're able to have it be just readily at your conscious, than when you learn it the first time. So even when I do the DEI work on understanding like racial inequity and well-being, I'm like, hey, I may be the 15th speaker you've had on this topic. And so there may be things that are repetitive, but if they're repetitive, that's good, because that means that you can't say you don't know. So you can't say you don't know, and it has to be able to come to your mind quicker. And then if there's a new perspective I can give on a similar topic, then that makes it just more robust, that the knowledge is just more holistic in your understanding. So I like to tell the audience, if this is repetitive, don't shut off your brain just because, like, oh, I've heard this before. Because we've done that sometimes with at church, for those who are believers, where it's like, oh, David and Goliath. Okay, I've heard this story so many times, or Noah and the ark, but there's always an opportunity to see something different, to hear something different, to learn something, so that it can be more sticky, because that's what we want, to create change. Things need to be stickier for us in that knowledge. And so I love and appreciate that you didn't just, oh, here's the program, here are the modules, and thank you and goodbye. It's like, no, I'm going to continue to add value, so that when you come back to the Institute, you'll see more information and learn more. So I really, really appreciate that. Thank you so much.
Oh, yes, because the research, the neuroscience research, is coming out like a fire hose. And, our other neurotrainers, neuroscientists, we're reading those articles and we're distilling it down so that you all can always stay at that advanced level, at that practical level, and just be up to date on how you can serve more powerfully, in this society. So we fully expect you to keep evolving, for you to keep getting those opportunities, right? And we want to be there with you the whole entire way. So this is not, an 8-week certification program and we never see you again. No, we want you to become our colleagues, right? We want you to come and train in the OptiMind Institute. We want you to be on stage at our OptiMind conference. We want to participate where we can with your articles and sharing your articles to the world, because we don't want this knowledge just sitting on someone's computer, right? So we're very intentional about who we let in the program, because we're out here trying to change the world now.
Yeah.
We need world into this, in this program, so that we can empower 100 billion. I used to say million.
Yes, billion.
We don't even have 100 billion people on the planet, but
meaning that you're changing future generations.
Yes. Ooh, I love that perspective. See, that's a reminder right there. But let me ask you this: were you skeptical about the program or joining? I mean, like, did you have any kind of skepticism?
I honestly had like zero reservation, zero skepticism. And I think because it wasn't something that, and this is no diss to people who put sponsored ads out, because I've done it too, where, you just see an ad and you may see it a couple of times and it's great. But because I had the privilege of hearing you speak and in a way you sold me, based off of the way that you broke it down for the layman to understand, that this wasn't so heady that, oh my gosh, because I'm not really big on, titles and whatever. So I think sometimes when you see doctor or when you hear scientist, it's like, oh, these people are here.
Right.
And you were so knowledgeable but approachable, and I was like, I want to be able to share this information in the same way, and you do that even in the program. Like, you in a way force us, or encourage, I shouldn't say force, encourage even in the handouts to, okay, now you know these technical names. Find easy names that your audience or your clients will remember, so that they don't get lost in the science part, but they really get the understanding of what each part means. They may not understand dendrite and all those things. The amygdala. We just say the emotional brain. So you talking like that in those interviews and the different people you would bring on. So like Rael, and I was like, okay, yes, I was all in, so I was really trying to figure out, I think the only thing that was the hesitancy was like, where am I going to get the money to invest? But it wasn't because of, will this be helpful for me? I knew immediately after the first conversation that I heard how I could implement it in the work that I did, because it aligned so much with the work I was doing then, just with, my private practice clients, but now even more so, on the corporate level.
Absolutely. Well, thank you for sharing that. Yeah, our mission is to make this knowledge accessible to everyone. Yeah. Now, we train coaches and leaders differently than how we train everyday people who are not coaches and leaders, right? So you all learn neuroscience 12 layers deeper than, us just training everyone who just needs to know the basic of their brain. But if we make it too scientific, like you said, it'll just go over people's heads and they'll never implement. And to me, that's ego anyways, when you're just staying at this high level and talk, it's like, yeah, meet people where they are, because the goal is to change brains so we can change the world, right? Use this powerful tool so people could be better spouses, better mates, better parents, better leaders, better, professionals, whatever. This is the link to everything. It's connected to everything we do. And you can only amplify everything you do if you amplify this intentionally. And I'm not talking about reading random articles, picking up a book on the brain. That's not going to go in, because you need a methodical, systematic way to learn. And that's how the OptiMind program is set up. In addition, you need someone to come in with perspective around those concepts. You need to be able to ask questions, right? And have in the moment insights. I'm big on insights. That the person, the neuroscientist and a coach can, share that perspective around your insights in the moment. And that is even a more optimal way to change your brain and to learn. And I just want to also say that when you have this knowledge, you're in a league of your own. I mean, there's not a lot of like coaches, leaders, therapists, unless they took, specific neuroscience in their programs, they don't have this level of knowledge. And you can really, demonstrate that you have another layer of understanding that could really, really catapult, your clients and your those organizations. So you can really command like a higher, fee for your work, because you're literally in the top 1% of your industry, because you have neuroscience infused into your work. It sets you apart, and people pay attention. It's like, whoa, wait a minute, we're going to learn about our brains too,
Yeah, it's always like this extra bonus, and every time you speak to a group, you know that you're speaking to a mixture of people, and people who learn in different ways. And so in those opportunities where I can actually see, because in this virtual speaking world, it's different. So sometimes I can't see the audience at all. But when I am, it is always great where I'm going like, hey, can we do a little neuroscience? And then the quote unquote nerds in the group, like you kind of see their face like, wait, what? What were we gonna do? Man, like, I did not expect that. And then those who obviously who just were like, wait, what are we doing? And I go through it with them. It's just kind of like this, oh wow, like I wasn't expecting that. And so that's always exciting to me because I think, just as a speaker, there should be something unexpected, at some point in your presentation that really makes people pay attention because they're like, oh, okay, I thought she was just going to be talking, but now I need to really learn. Let me get a paper and pen. Let me really, listen in and be present. So just being able to have that knowledge, and it doesn't even have to be the entire presentation, but just a moment where you go, hey, can I teach you a little bit about your brain? Like what's going on with you like right now? And, they are like, yeah, let's do that. That's different. I've never had anybody like break this down for me. So, just putting it in simple day-to-day terms is great. But like you said, with the knowledge from the program, we definitely know it on a deeper level. And so, I don't remember who says it, but like a good communicator is someone who's able to talk to you like on an 8th grade level, because not everybody goes to college. Not everybody, goes to grad school. The majority of the people who are, here in the States don't have, higher education, degrees. So to be able to just say, hey, if I can teach well, now he's going to be 10, but I've been teaching him since I started your program, so when he was like 6 years old, I'm explaining to him. My daughter, who is hilarious, I printed out the brain handout.
Mm-hmm.
I'm like, okay, you color it because she's my artist, just like mama. And so she colored it, and then she went and created her own talk and recorded herself. And she was just like, hi, I'm a Farrah Harris-Psychotherapist. Your kids are watching you. And so she did this whole presentation on self-care. Like, so she was hearing obviously the buzzwords that I say with what I do. And she's like, and on emotional intelligence. And then I'm going to teach you about the brain because she doesn't really know the neuroscience thing. And she's like, here's your emotional brain. You see all the colors. And so red is for anger. Like, the girl's 6.
Wow.
Just able to, and I had literally just did a quick overview with her the night before. And the next day she's like, okay, we're going to do a video.
Got it.
I mean, and it was not all the way correct, but for what she was able to get in 5 minutes, for her to be able to go like, oh, I can now teach you people, at 6 years old. So that is the power of this program, that you give us the information that we can figure out a way to present it in a digestible way to those who, are part of our, whether it's a coaching program or in a workshop. And to me, that's just an amazing thing, because I don't know how often you're able to get a training that you can, just bring it down to the everyday man's level and not just stay up here, because I've done other courses where it's like, whew, okay.
Yeah,
but I'm really trying to figure out how do I break this down, to and how I implement it,
Yes. Oh, we want it to be a no-brainer. We want you to go out there fully prepared to hit the ground running, talking about the brain and be able to speak on it to whatever audience you're presenting. So you're not limited to just talking to, leaders. You can talk to teenagers. You can talk to, people in the workforce. You can talk to any, parents. Parents can learn about their own kids' brains and learn how to be a better parent. So you're a 360-degree trainer of the brain. So you can, whatever issue, whatever is brought to you, you can find the neuroscience behind it, because we found the neuroscience behind it. We can neuroscientize anything. That's not even a word I made it up.
Yeah.
I just want to thank you so much for what you do in the world, especially now in this moment. You have the courage to show up even more boldly to help people in the workplace, people who are struggling, people who are even more stressed out because of, kids being at home, and people lost their jobs, and relationships are on the brink because they haven't had to deal with relationships, at this level. So when COVID first hit and things started being shut down, I remember coming to all of the OptiMind community and saying, you all were trained for this moment. Because you all were ready. You were ready for your clients to come to you stressed out, worried, but you were able to, hold your own and stay centered and say, I know exactly what we need to do to navigate this. So let's go. And then organizations, reaching out to OptiMinders because they know something is going on in the brain when there's stress, when there's worry, when you're distracted, when you're not focused, all of that. So all of us just had an explosion of opportunities this year, but I want to take it even further in 2021. I want to get even further ahead of the curve when it comes to building resilient brains and resilient minds. So we need even more coaches and leaders who are certified in neuroscience. And we need even more everyday people just learning about their brain, because there's a saying, the time to have the map is before you enter the woods, people. You don't want to wait till you in the woods to say, oh, let me look at the map now. No, that's the same thing with the brain. You want to build a robust, resilient brain. You want to get the coaching from, a certified neuro coach, neuro leader. You want leaders who are knowledgeable about their brains. You need to be knowledgeable about your brain and build up the lushness, as Farrah was talking about. Build up those neural pathways, build up those branches so that whatever stressors, whatever challenges come your way, you're able to withstand it and you won't succumb to, all of the consequences of being under this distress and duress. You'll have that bounce back. So in 2021, we're gonna go even further, Farrah.
People don't understand just how much, the neuroscience, like you said, you could really put it in anything, to like the neuroscience of self-care and just really being able to understand, I tell people, self-care is preventative, it's protective, and it's maintenance, so when the world gets like this, when you hit hard times, it's not necessarily that self-care is going to make you happy. It's not brunches and vacations and spa days, which are great. But what are you doing every day? What is the intentional daily act that you are doing to protect yourself so that you can, like you said, that you can have that bounce back? You may not have everything be great, but you're in the moment knowing like, this is what I need to do to maintain. And if you have more access to other things, then it's like, okay, now I know what to do to even be above the circumstance. But if I like the map thing, I may have to use that, but yeah, we're in the woods and now we're trying to figure out where we're trying to go. We may be able to get out, but it's going to take longer. Instead of, what are you doing ahead of time so that when grief hits or when a loss hits or when you lose your job or whatever, that you go like, okay, I'm prepared for this because I know what emotions are happening, and not to minimize them. I always say feel what you're feeling, but you don't have to have them take over. So it's like, yeah, if you're going through grief, it's sadness. And understand why you're going through that sadness and to give space for the sadness, but then to make sure that you're responding in a way that's still healthy, that you're not reaching for those foods that our instinct brain, wants us to go to, what is it? The fat, the salty, and the sweet. We want to have life-giving foods that help us to be able to maintain through those hard times. And so even breaking that down for a lot of people in the midst of this year has been helpful, because I'm like, let me tell you what your brain is doing, which is why you're going to these foods, because your stress is kind of taken over. And so you want to get back to thinking rationally and logically and using the boss part of your brain to go like, wait, this is what's happening to me right now. What can I do to make things better? Okay, go for a walk, eat healthier foods, take a nap, or, do something where you're intentional with your day-to-day activities. And so I try to give back the power that people don't well, it's not even giving people back the power. They always had it. They just didn't know, so it's like, I need you to tap back into your locus of control, because the world is always going to do something that surprises us. But we should still always be able to like stand firm in the midst of it, kind of like being in the eye of the storm. We should still be calm, even if there's chaos all around us.
Beautifully said. Beautifully said. We want to be able to operate in that solution part of the brain during challenging times instead of the instinctive
Yes.
fight part of the brain. So we need to make sure we have a resilient brain in 2021 and beyond, because this is not going to be the last challenge for us humans. So let's get ready, everyone.
Let's get ready.
Yes. So if this is calling you to be trained at this level, like Farrah, if you want to see how far the rabbit hole goes when it comes to neuroscience, if you want to be well versed and be able to show up in any organization for any client, whatever issue they bring to you, then you need to be in the OptiMind program. But we got to have a conversation first, because I have to make sure that the program is a good fit for you. And that, it'll fit your needs and your vision as well. And you have to be all in. It's go time. You have to be a world changer. You have to want to do something bigger, because you can't sit on this knowledge. It's a great knowledge, right? And it deserves to be used out in the world to change the world. Yeah. So if this is you go ahead and book a call with me and my enrollment team at ShantaeTaylor-apply.com. I'll also put the link somewhere else, either in the post or in the comments. Thank you so much, Farrah. You are a joy to watch in the world. You're beautiful, and keep doing what you're doing. I can't wait to meet your daughter one day, by the way.
Oh, the world ain't ready for her. She's going to do something extremely amazing.
I think Dalai Lama said that if we taught all children to meditate, we can have world peace in one generation. And I believe the same about the brain. If we taught all children about their brain in one generation, we'll be a totally higher evolved race.
Yep.
I would. So thank you so much, everyone. Thank you, Farrah, again. Remember, when you better your mind and better your brain, you will better your impact in the world. And we need you right now to show up as your most powerful self. So talk to you soon, everyone. Take care.